When it comes to the world of professional wrestling, what you're going to do is go on the internet and find hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people's top 10. So it could be top 10 favorite wrestlers, top 10 best matches, top 10 worst wrestlers, top 10 biggest botches at WrestleMania, whatever. Okay, but we're going to start today with our own top 10 versions, and we're going to have our top 10 favorite wrestlers. These are mine. Agree with them? Don't agree with them? I don't really care. But we're going to go through and have a look at some of them. So we are going to start at number 10. So at number 10, when I first started watching wrestling in the early 90s, I was watching a little bit before, watching World of Sport, where you had the likes of Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. We're not really looking at them. They're not going to get in my top 10 because, to be fair, they're a bit rubbish. But we're going to look more towards the WWE and those sort of avenues. To be fair, yep, who knew? They're all WWE wrestlers and all WWE stars because that's what I watch. Yeah, I do occasionally watch a bit of AEW. I have in the past seen bits of Impact or TNA as it was, and I did used to watch occasionally a little bit of WCW. But on the whole, WWE is where I'm at the moment. Gotta agree that SmackDown is kicking Raw's ass because SmackDown is the best wrestling show on TV at the moment. But anyway, not worrying about that. We're going to have a look at our top 10s and we're going to start, who knew, at number 10. So at number 10, I've got the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart, who when I started watching it, he was just coming out of the Hart Foundation and about to embark on his Intercontinental title reign. Obviously, his career, okay, he came back and he did win the US title in 2010, 2011. But 1997, the most famous event possibly in wrestling, possibly the worst, one of the worst pay-per-views there have been. Survivor Series 1997 is remembered and widely remembered for the screw job. But to be fair, the rest of the pay-per-view sucked. So yeah, Bret Hart is my choice at number 10. So at number 9, I've got my tribal chief, my head of the table, Roman Reigns. And it's not just because of his skills now. Even when he was constantly being booed, Roman was a main eventer. Okay, he may have been pushed a bit early. Was he the best on the mics? No. Is he still the best? Is he the best on the mic now? Probably not. But you've got to look at him. He was wrestling every week, every pay-per-view. He would put on decent matches. You know, you can't say, Roman Reigns, he was rubbish. He couldn't wrestle. Yeah, he could. He was a decent wrestler. He is a decent wrestler. And the thing is, how the ties have changed because now he may fight once a month. But he's always there. You know, he's always a threat. He will come out and he will make you respect him. You know, his feud with Jey Uso, that was quite amusing. And how he's now become his lackey is entertaining. But yeah, big up to Roman. I do respect Roman. Then we are going to go with your man from Chicago, CM Punk. CM Punk was fantastic. He was a great wrestler. He was possibly in the top 5 people on the mic. And then you've got the pipe bombs. And obviously there's the famous pipe bomb, which he did where he took over at the end of the show, where he infamously said the best thing that could happen to the WWE is when Vince McMahon dies. May not have been those exact words, but basically he was saying he can't wait for him to die, which is nice. He doesn't really like the likes of Triple H. He was anti-establishment, but, you know, that's what made him great. And his title reign where he was champion for, what was it, over 400 days before losing to The Rock was fantastic. And then to not even give him a rematch, make him take on The Undertaker, and then not allow him to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, well, that was the end of Punk, shall we say. So then we're going to look at your boy from Toronto, Canada, the Rated R superstar Edge. What a career. You know, you look back at him as this man who came through the crowd, the Think You Know Me, was always part of Edge's thing. Then his buddy Christian came over, and what a tag team they were. He then went off and became a singles wrestler. Edge was fantastic, one of the best heels of all time. Yeah, fantastic. Really liked Edge. Then we've got a man who had basically two careers. His first part coming through the likes of AWA to become the WWE as a part of the Rockers, Shawn Michaels is a fantastic wrestler. He then went on to have a Hall of Fame worthy career. Then his career was ended by The Undertaker. There's going to be a little bit of continual Shawn Michaels Undertaker type moments going on. So he was retired because of a back injury by The Undertaker, probably for the best because it allowed him to come off the painkilling drugs. He was also the other half of the Montreal Screwjob with Bret. He was severely hated there. And then after 4 years at SummerSlam, I think it was, he came back and it looked like a DX reunion with Triple H. They came in and the fans were all excited and they were gonna do the suck it bit, and then Triple H pedigreed him, and then they had a feud, and they were only he was only coming back for one match, and it was gonna be against Triple H, and he hadn't wrestled for 4.5 years or something, and he looked like he hadn't missed a beat, and he was Mr. WrestleMania, one of the best wrestlers of all time. Shawn had returned, and his second career was iconically even better. He then decided he was going to take down The Undertaker, and his final match at WrestleMania was against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. But, of course, they've always got to come back for that one last match. But Shawn didn't. Shawn stayed away, which was great because, let's be fair, you don't want an old man coming back and wrestling. But he did come back to Saudi Arabia for whatever money they paid him in a tag team match. Ironically, again, The Undertaker was in that match. So on his 3 last matches, they all involved The Undertaker. Well, it wasn't his last match, actually. It was against Austin when he lost before he had to retire first time. But, it was the injury that happened when he fell on that casket against The Undertaker, which caused the retirement. But Shawn Michaels, Hall of Famer, and one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of our sport. We're then going to go back to the Attitude Era and the early Ruthless Aggression Era to find your boy, The Rock. What can you say about The Rock? The Rock is Hollywood. The Rock is a movie star now. People now will probably know him as much for his movies as they will his wrestling. But when you look back, he was a brilliant heel, a good face, but definitely better as a heel. And, you ask most wrestlers, you can have more fun as a heel. But yeah, The Rock was magic. The Rock was money and is money. Look at how much money he takes from his films. You got to ask yourself, would it be better to win an Oscar and get some acting credit, or do you go and make the big action movies that he does and show me the money? And I think he goes for the money because at the end of the day, he's an entertainer. He doesn't want to go and do Shakespeare and all that. And I've done Shakespeare, as you possibly know. You haven't seen it, go back and watch some of my earlier videos and you'll get some amazing bits of Shakespeare. May I recommend the Hamlet and the Cat or something? Can't remember what I called it now, but yeah, the one where I do a bit of Hamlet. It's it's interesting. Then we've got the Breaking Glass Man. That's it, your boy Stone Cold Steve Austin. Steve Austin was the pinnacle of the Attitude Era. No one shouts Attitude like Stone Cold. Even now he does his broken skulls and all that sort of stuff. This is a man who is, he took wrestling to an even higher level. If you look back at it, you've got your boy Hulk Hogan, who took wrestling with obviously Vince McMahon into the mainstream. Stone Cold then took that pattern and he took it to another stratosphere, which clearly it's never actually got to again. But the thing is, with Stone Cold, he wasn't the best wrestler, let's be perfectly fair. He could wrestle, he could go and brawl and do a bit of hardcore, but was he really the greatest wrestler in the world? No. But for the pop, yes. And to be fair, this is my favourite wrestlers. This isn't the greatest wrestlers of all time. Going to do a little bit on that in a moment. Then you want someone who can be the best face in the world and someone who can be the best heel in the world. Well, there's one man who comes to mind. My number 3 is now in AEW. He is your boy with a list. Everyone loves a list. It's got to be Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho came to the WWE. He interrupted The Rock at a time when The Rock was absolutely massive. And he stole the show that night. Although, to be fair, at the end of that, it was him being put down by The Rock. But what a debut that was. Possibly the greatest debut in the WWE. Yeah, you could say that. Or you could look at Brock Lesnar or someone like that. But he's come back. He's reinvented his character. One of his best ones was the one where he would come into the ring, run round, tap people's hands. He did this for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then he became the biggest slimeball in the history of our sport. Number 2 is Randy Orton. Now, this is the thing with Randy Orton. Randy Orton, as a heel, is electric. When he's playing that slow Viper type act, does it slowly and does it nastily. You look back to the feud with Triple H before WrestleMania 25 and things like that. And, he's done it a bit since then. Currently on Raw, it's a bit of an odd storyline, but yeah, this is the Randy that I particularly like, and that's why he's at number 2. As a face, I think he's a pile of shit, to be fair. He's the worst face in the history of wrestling. Although, fun fact, he's actually been a face more than he's been a heel. But that's why he's been in the mid-card a lot. But he's always been there. And yeah, I do like Randy. So before I do my number 1, those of you who know me will probably say, well, we know your number 1 is Andy. You've got to look at some of the people who, for me, are important for either their title reigns or because of what they've actually brought to the business. So we're going to start with, if you're looking at the greatest champions of all time, well, you can't not put Bruno San Martino in there. He held the WWF or whatever bleeding title it was when it first started, and he had it for over 8 years, so you can't not look at him. Then you've got people like Hulk Hogan, who came in and, he took the WWE to the next level. And, you've got to say that without Hogan, who knows where we'd be. On the other hand, you've got the NWA, WCW, Ric Flair. I know he came over to the WWE in the end, but his better work was done away from the WWE, you could say. And he was brilliant. Macho Man Randy Savage, well, that was an entertaining person on the mic. A great color commentator as well. John Cena, you can't mess with John Cena. Lots of people would have him in their top 10 and lots of people would probably have him at number 1. But, yeah, he carried that company for a long time. The Undertaker, you can't say that he didn't bring a lot to wrestling. Some of the WrestleMania main events that he's been involved in, the ones against Shawn Michaels. And for me, my favourite Undertaker, apart from the 2 against Shawn Michaels, my favourite Triple H Undertaker WrestleMania match was the one at WrestleMania 17, where it was a normal match, but it ended up being the most hardcore match you're probably likely to see. I actually thought Triple H was going to win that match because he had Motorhead seeing him out, but who knew he was defending a streak? Not many at that time. You've then got the likes of Kurt Angle, who was a legit Olympic gold medalist at wrestling, and he was fantastic, and on the mic, he was brilliant. At the time, I wasn't such a fan, but looking back on him, yeah, he didn't mind taking the absolute Michael out of himself and was brilliant. Your boy Brock Lesnar, UFC world champion, Universal champion. Didn't turn up a lot. Didn't like that part of him, but my boy, I wouldn't have wanted to mess with him. Then you've got the greatest high flyer in the history of wrestling in Rey Mysterio. Still doing it today. You know, what a career he's had. You know, whether that's in the WWE, at WCW. It's weird when you go back to see him in WCW when he doesn't have a mask. All the other places he's been around in, I think he's been in Japan and places like that. So, you know, this is a man who's certainly been around. And of course, there's my body double, Bobby Lashley. As I keep saying, you know, very similar looking physiques. Obviously, I've got slightly better hair than you, Bob. But to be fair, you've got a slightly better tan. If you're not sure who Bobby Lashley is, then start with why the hell are you watching this video? But just go look up Bobby Lashley. Put a picture of me next to Bobby Lashley. I tell you what, I'll take the glasses off so that the glasses don't take away the actual likeness of us. So there you go. Go on to a website or watch Raw and you'll see Bobby Lashley and you'll think, you know what, and yeah, you do look much like Bobby Lashley. Like I say, my body double, Bobby Lashley. So, number one, who is my favourite number one wrestler of all time? And if you know me, you already know who it is. Well, there's only one person. I've mentioned him a few times already in this video. It has to be the cerebral assassin, the game himself, your boy, Triple H, CEO of the WWE. Put my word. He is absolutely been a beast. Nothing was standing in his way. He didn't care who he beat up. He didn't care what he did. Triple H is, for me, the greatest wrestler in the history of the WWE. And if you're not down with that, then I got two words for you. See ya. Anyway, no, to be fair, you know, yeah, Triple H for me, always liked him. From the Blue Blood to what he became in the past. His time with DX, Evolution, you know, this is a man who looked legit as well, you know. When he came back from tearing his quad to returning on Monday Night Raw on, what was it, January the 7th, 2002 or something like that, to the crowd going wild, him then pedigreeing Kurt Angle, declaring himself in the Rumble. That was one out of. Imagine being a wrestler in Madison Square Garden for that. The other great return he did was when was it Extreme Rules? He lost to Sheamus, who became WWE champion, and he was gone for the best part of a year. The Undertaker came out. He'd had this freaky music going, and it was WrestleMania season, so obviously the Undertaker's coming back soon. And eventually he came out, and literally as it stopped, time to play the game. And imagine being there for that, you know. One, it's exciting because you've got the Undertaker just done the Undertaker entrance. That's got to be amazing. But then to get the greatest wrestler, in my view, of all time, Triple H, come out to the game. And they didn't even say anything. And that spoke louder than words. Because they just looked at each other. They looked at the WrestleMania sign. And there it is. Those two boys are going at each other at WrestleMania. Shawn obviously came back and tried to talk him out of it, but that wasn't going to work. And yeah, we had one hell of a match. Anyway, that's my top 10. So it's the first wrestling top 10 we're doing. We're going to do probably one a week. Any suggestions or things you'd like me to do in my wrestling top 10s, then give us a comment and let me know, and we will look to see if we can do that. Anyway, that's your man in the shed, Andy P. Here I am, being amazing. If you can see any marks on my arms, by the way, I'm in the middle of painting a fence, but I thought, you know what, this is boring. Let's go do a pointless video on wrestling and amuse the world with my lack of wrestling knowledge in that view. Obviously, I'm right and everyone else is wrong because that's just the way life is. Anyway, this fence ain't going to paint itself, you know, people. If you're interested, it's going from cedar to grey, and it keeps coming through the bloody cedar, so it's a bit of a pain I'm having to go over again and again and again. But I've done a panel. I need to go and get on with it. Otherwise, like I say, it ain't going to paint itself. See ya, pals!